Aloha, it's Lola, your favorite travel correspondent, coming to you directly from the beautiful island of Oahu, Hawaii. Before we get into the heart of the video, I want to tell you a fact about Hawaii. The term Hawaiian refers to people of Hawaiian descent. Only people who are of Hawaiian descent can be called Hawaiian. People who live in Hawaii but are not of Hawaiian descent are referred to as locals. So if you come here or if you're referring to people who live here, just make sure you know their ethnicity before referring to them as Hawaiians. If you're not sure, call them locals. Alright, I've got another pros and cons video for you. I am not going to be able to cover everything in one video, so make sure you're subscribed so you can catch more videos in the future. My first pro with regards to living in Hawaii is the outdoor activities. Oh my goodness, there's so much to do here. You can go parasailing, you can go on a cruise, you can surf, you can paddleboard, you can boogie board, you can snorkel, you can scuba dive. Because the weather is so nice here, you just want to be outside all the time. There's hiking, you can go ATV riding, you can go zip lining, you can swim with the dolphins, swim with the turtles. Oh my gosh, the possibilities are virtually endless. I mean, there's just so much to do. You never want to be inside for too long. If you live here, you want to be getting outside, getting some sun, getting some fresh air, seeing the scenery. It makes for a really good, fun life. The warm water, that is pro number 2. The water here is so nice. It's like bath water, at least in the summertime. You can just go out in the water, wade, and not even get cold really. In the wintertime, if you're gonna go surfing, you might want to wear a wetsuit. As of today in Honolulu, the ocean temperature is 81 degrees. That's insane. I didn't realize it was actually that warm. I thought, like, once I'm moving around, I get warm and everything, but like, that's pretty warm. The ocean water is really healing, and if you're lucky, you'll see some tropical fish or maybe even a turtle. Okay, number 3, the biodiversity here is something like I've never seen before. There are so many species. In fact, I think I read there are over 21,000 species of animals here, and about 4,500 of them are non-indigenous. And then, you know, I'm just talking about land animals, but there are also obviously animals in the ocean. You go outside and you immediately see animals. Like, even if you're in the city, our apartment has lizards. There's just so many different plants and animals here. The 4th pro with regards to living in Hawaii is the laid-back lifestyle. You may have picked up on that a little bit when I was talking about the outdoor activities. There's overall, in general, a more slow pace here, as is with the other islands, although this is the most populated island, so it's a little busier here. But even still, compared to the mainland, at least if you're coming from a big city, you're gonna notice there's quite a shift from what you're used to the lifestyle here. No one's really in a hurry. No one's trying to get anywhere quickly. I mean, I'm saying no one loosely. Obviously, there are some people who are. You learn to just kind of relax and not stress out too much about things having to happen quickly. Obviously, depending on the job you do, that might vary, but generally, overall, there's a sense of island time. All right, and now for the cons. Con number 1, there is virtually no nightlife here on at least the island of Oahu, and I imagine on the other islands as well, considering Oahu is the most populated island and has the most going on. There are a few places I know of where you can go dancing, one being Scarlet in Chinatown. There's a spot in Waikiki that plays hip-hop music, but I went there maybe a couple times and a fight almost broke out the last time I was there, so I said, time for me to go and never come back. Outside of that, there used to be a country line dancing place at the Aloha Tower that has since closed, but I know there's at least one more because I've seen people post Instagram videos. So there are some options out there, but you're not going to find a ton of things to do at night here in general. So if you're a nightlife type of person, you might have to make some adjustments and just consider the fact that a lot of things close early. You're not going to be out till 4 a.m. like you might be in like Miami or something like that. Now, there are various music events and comedy events that happen around the island, mostly in Honolulu, although Turtle Bay does also have live music at night, at least on the weekend. There's also the Blue Note in Waikiki. There's the Blaisdell that puts on large-scale concerts. You'll have artists like Bruno Mars come to town, and that's typically where they'll perform. And there are events that happen in smaller venues, but you're not going to find a ton of nighttime events here, comparable at least to major cities on the mainland, like San Diego, for example. That's that's where I'm from, so that's where I have experience. There's always something going on there, and things stay open later. There's the gas lamp there, and there's Pacific Beach. It's a big county, so there's a lot to do there. Well, here it's a lot more concentrated. If you venture outside of Honolulu, you're going to find fewer and fewer events going on. Con number 2 is the slow pace. Now, I did mention previously that the laid-back lifestyle is more of a pro, but it actually just depends on your lifestyle. Since I've moved here, I've become slower and I've adjusted to the lifestyle. Now, again, I come from San Diego, which has a laid-back energy compared to a place like New York, for example, but coming here, it's even slower paced than San Diego. No one is in a hurry to get anywhere on the island. Things don't always start on time. I think that's indicative of a lot of islands. They call it island time. Everyone's basically like, don't worry, things are gonna happen when they happen. And that's not to say that everyone acts like that, and certain businesses certainly do take timeliness seriously. But even, for example, my husband and I went on this scuba class type of thing. I don't really know how to classify it, but we got there when we were supposed to, and there was a family that we were waiting for, and because we were waiting for them, the class actually got delayed because they were waiting for those people to show up, and then the people never even showed up. And so we went about our scheduled program, and it didn't seem to mess up anything. I think they allowed for a buffer, but the fact that they'd be like, oh, well, we'll just wait for a half hour for people to show up. Meanwhile, the other people got there on time is kind of wild to me. I don't think that would happen in a lot of other places, but they probably, again, prepared for that because maybe they're used to people not showing up on time. I even get that with my own business. People often show up late, and I'm like, all right, come on now, I've adjusted to island time, but when it comes to my business, I need for people to be punctual because I've got other things I need to get done. But just in general, people here are just really laid back, and a lot of my clients are tourists, but I think, I don't know, something about island life draws in that laid back, slow pace mentality. And I definitely notice that people sometimes drive really slow. Some people just walk really slow in the sidewalk, especially in Waikiki. I think because a lot of people there are there for vacation, so they're not in a hurry. But things just feel slower here than on the mainland. It almost feels like we're in our own little bubble over here, but that can be a little frustrating sometimes, especially when you yourself have a deadline or a time limit or something to get done and you're relying on other people. They don't have a fire under them the way you do. Con number 3 is it is really difficult to make long-lasting friendships here. And that's mostly because there is a transient population here. A lot of people come here for a short period of time and also don't always necessarily know how long they're going to be here when they do arrive. But there are various things that bring people here for only a few months, a few years. And those are things like being in the military and getting stationed here, going to the university here. During the pandemic, there are people who moved here because they were able to work virtually but have since had to move away because it's too expensive here, or their job made adjustments and they could no longer work virtually, etc., etc. It's just a constant flow of people coming in and out off of the islands. And so because of that, even if you do make friends, oftentimes they end up leaving not too long after. And, you know, of course you can have long distance friends, but in order for you to build a strong bond with people, you need to be able to see them regularly. And that's a little bit tough to do. And also people who are from here or people who have been here for a long time often already have their friend groups. Now there are things like Bumble BFF, you can join a Facebook group, you can join various Instagram groups or locals, and you can try to meet people that way. I have used Bumble BFF and met quite a few people from there, but like meeting people in any circumstances, some personalities will match better with yours than others. And so it's a numbers game essentially. And then when you finally narrow it down, then you'll be friends with someone for a couple years and then they'll move to the mainland. So that's definitely a challenge and something to consider. I mean, it's already difficult making friends as an adult because we're not in school anymore. We're not seeing the same people every day anymore unless you're seeing the same people at work every day. But even then, sometimes, you know, making work friends, that's a unique situation as well. It depends on what job you're doing. Basically, if you're planning on moving here and you don't know anyone here already, understand that it might be a little challenging to make friends, and maybe you're gonna have to put yourself out there more than you think you would or more than you normally would in your current circumstance because it's just that much more difficult to meet people here. Now, there is another app, meetup.com, I forgot to mention, that posts events that are going on weekly. That's something to consider. You will have a good chance meeting other people with your same interests, obviously. And so that might be a way to go. Bumble BFF is a little more challenging. It's like a dating site. I mean, it is a dating site, but they have a BFF section where you can just go to meet friends. But it feels almost like dating when you go to meet up with someone. You're like trying to figure out if you like the person, and it can be a little bit of added pressure. I've been here 7.5 years and I only have like 3 friends on the island now, and some people I've met have already moved away. I have become acquainted with my husband's friends too, so that's nice. But I kind of just accepted the fact that quality over quantity, that's always the best way to go anyway. Con number 4 is, well, we are on an island, which means we are far from the mainland, which means it takes a long time to get back there or for people to come to visit. So when you have to go anywhere off island, unless you're going to another island, it's going to take at the very least 5 or 6 hours to get to the West Coast. And obviously it takes more than that if you're going any farther than the West Coast, and you're most likely going to have to incorporate layovers into your trip. Now, apparently you can get a direct flight from the East Coast or from the South to the island, I've heard, but personally, I don't want to sit on a plane for that long. I actually prefer having layovers if it's a long trip so that I can get up and stretch my legs and not be confined to a tube in the air the entire time. It's an obvious con, I think, but I don't think that people really think deeply about it. The fact that, oh, anytime someone from back home wants to see me, they're probably not going to come here unless I have a room they can stay in, right? Because it's so expensive. So I'm going to be visiting my family mostly. My family finally came to visit, and you know what it took? It took my husband and I having a wedding in order for them to actually come to the island, because it's just too expensive and we don't have a bunch of extra rooms. We have one guest room that doubles as my husband's home office, and that's where my mom stayed. But other than that, we can't offer to put anybody up for free. So that means everyone has to spend a lot of money if they're going to come to visit us, unless we just have one guest at a time who wants to stay in our guest room. And then if we are flying out to meet up with them, it's typically $700+ depending on what time of year I buy my ticket. I usually like to buy it early. This year I kind of waited because we have other travel plans. So I'm going to be going from Cancun to Texas and then staying there rather than flying back and forth. And so that made it a little less expensive because Cancun to Texas is a shorter trip and therefore a cheaper flight. But if you want to visit family in New York, that's going to be really pricey. If you want them to visit you, well, be prepared for them to not be able to do it every year unless they just have money like that. All right, that's going to do it for this video. Did you learn anything new? Are any of these pros and cons worth you moving or not moving here? I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed and check out the other videos in this pros and cons series. I'll see you in the next one. Aloha!